Hi guys, and welcome to my very first Adobe Illustrator tutorial on how to create a super easy braid brush. It's actually my very first video tutorial, so please bear with me if it's a little bit ropey. I want you to take a look at my workspace, and on the right here I have 3 panels already open. If you don't have these panels open, go up to Window and select the Appearance panel, the Pathfinder panel and the Stroke panel. Once you've done that, I want you to bring up your rulers by pressing Command R, or you can go up to View and down to Rulers and show or hide rulers from there. Next, I want you to go to the very left hand top corner of your rulers and right click and select points, because that's the unit of measurement we're going to be working in today. Next, I want you to go up to the menu and select View once again and check that your smart guides are switched on. They'll have a little tick by them, and also the snap to point, we want that to have a tick by it too, because this is going to be really useful when we're constructing our shapes in a few moments. Next, I want you to go over to your rulers here with your selection tool on and click and drag out, hold and drag onto your page and drop a guide. It doesn't matter where you drop it at the moment. Double check this is selected by clicking on the page and dragging over the guide quickly. Once you have that selected, go up to the control panel and on the Align button here, click and double check Align to Artboard is selected. And then once that's selected, go here to the Horizontal Align Center button. That will align our guide that we just dragged out to the center of our artboard. Click and you'll see it jump to the center. Now we don't want our guide to accidentally be selected while we're constructing our shapes, so we want to lock it. So you can select your guide once again by either clicking on it with your selection tool or clicking and dragging on the page and just drag over it, double check it's selected and then press Command Alt semicolon to lock our guide. That means we can no longer accidentally pick it up and move it around while we're constructing our shapes. If you don't want to use the shortcut to lock it, you can go up to View and then to Guides and then Lock Guides here. Once you've got your guide set up, I want you to press M to bring up the rectangle tool. Alternatively, you can go over to your toolbox here, right click and bring up rectangle tool. Then I want you to go and hover over the ruler guide that we made, and you can see there is a word flashing up that says guide in green. That is actually our smart guide telling us that we're directly over the top of the ruler guide that we made. And once you can see that, I want you to press and hold Alt and then click with your mouse, and that will bring up the rectangle panel. In there we want to input the size of our rectangle, which will be 2 points wide by 3 points high. And once you've input that, press OK or hit return and we will have made our rectangle. At the moment you can see here that our rectangle has no fill and no stroke. We want to go over to our stroke panel. You can do it in your stroke panel here, or you can use the control panel up here. It's up to you which method you use. We can go and select 0.25 point weight to our stroke. So once that's selected, you can see Illustrator has automatically chosen to give us a black stroke. That's fine. Then you can see, well, you can see or not see that we've created a rectangle in the middle of our page, because at the moment it's so small we need to zoom in to see it. And you can do this by going over to your toolbox here and clicking on the magnifying glass, or you can press Z to bring up the magnifying glass and then click and drag in the area you want to zoom. So click and drag, and there we have it. We can see our rectangle now. Once you're zoomed in, I want you to press L, and that will bring up the ellipse tool because we're going to make a circle. You can also choose the ellipse tool here from the panel. If it's not already displayed, right click and you can choose it from here, ellipse tool. Once you've done that, we don't need to align this one to the center of the page, just click while holding Alt and you will bring up the ellipse panel. And we want our circle to be 4 points by 4 points, and once you put that in, hit return or press OK and our circle will appear. Once you've done that, I want you to then switch back to the rectangle tool again by pressing M, and I want you to make sure that your circle is selected. A handy hint, like if you've switched onto a tool, say we're using our rectangle tool at the moment, and you want to quickly use the selection tool to select something, just hold down Command and just hold Command, and then you'll see your black pointers come up, your selection tool, and you can select whatever you want. And then once you release Command, it'll go back to being the rectangle tool again. So that is very useful. Once you've got your circle selected, then I want you to hover over the center until Smart Guide says that we're over the center. Press and hold Shift, click and drag out a square. We pressed Shift at the same time because we wanted to constrain the rectangle tool, so we made a square. We don't want a rectangle, we want a perfect square in this case. Then we want to select both shapes with the selection tool, so press B and click and drag over our shapes. Next we want to take a portion of these two shapes. We want this bit here in the middle, and to do that there are a few ways, and I'm going to show you two. We can go over to our Pathfinder panel here and we can click on intersect, and that will give us the center part of the shape here. There is another way to do this. I like to use it because it's quick and on the fly, and it's easy to add and subtract things. You don't need to keep going over to the Pathfinder panel. So I'm going to step back once by pressing Command Z, and then I will show you the tool here in the toolbox. It's called the Shape Builder tool. You might know about this. And I've set actually a shortcut to get Shape Builder tool in my preferences, which is, for me, is Shift S, and that will bring up my Shape Builder tool, which now you can see it's an arrow with a plus. Now I want to get rid of this bit. You can see it's when I hover over it goes grey, and to do this I will just press and hold Alt and then click, and then hover over this bit, the circle that I want to get rid of, and it'll go grey. It's going to tell me this bit is going to be taken away, but to subtract I press and hold Alt and click again, and there we have it. We have the same shape as before, just using a different method. Once you have this shape, with your selection tool, drag it and line it up with our rectangle. You can see that it's telling us there intersect. That means it's directly lined up with our rectangle. That's our Smart Guide telling us that. Once they're perfectly lined up, I then want to select both of them. So click and drag with the selection tool to select both, and once again we want to unite this shape now, so we can do that in the Pathfinder menu here with the Unite option. So if I click that, there we have united the shape. I'm going to go back one step with Command Z, and I'm going to show you the other way with the Shape Builder tool, which is you press here on your Shape Builder tool, or Command Shift is the shortcut that I set up, and hover over your rectangle, click and hold, and then drag until you can see this part of the shape go grey, and then let go and it will unite our shapes. So that is another way of doing it. Once you have this shape, I want you to click and start dragging and press while pressing Alt and Shift. And what pressing Alt is doing is duplicating the shape, and we're also pressing Shift at the same time to constrain it. so it will keep it in line when we drag it, so it won't move up anywhere else. They're directly above each other. Once you've done that, I want you to reflect this shape so it's facing the opposite way. There are several ways to do this, but I'm just going to do the quick, easy way to show you. Just right click while the shape is selected. I'm going to bring up the menu, and we want to go down to transform and select reflect. Now you can see the reflect panel is open, and it's showing me a preview. It's already flipped the shape for me. If you didn't see anything happen, it might be because this preview box here, that's not ticked. So just make sure that's ticked, and you'll be able to see that it's flipped vertically. Here we have the vertical reflection selected. That's what we need. Next, I want you to make sure your selection tool is on, and go over to the corner of your shape and press and hold Shift, and when you can see the little double arrow on the corner, just rotate, pull round while holding Shift to constrain the movement of the shape. Move it to 90 degrees. So there we go. Once you've done that, I want you just to drag your shape up with your selection tool and line it up with the shape you have up there. You can see it's telling us there, intersect, intersect. It's all lined up perfectly, so we let go. And there we are. Once that's done, we can now get rid of this guide here because we don't really need to see it anymore. It's just going to be in the way. So press Command and semicolon to hide that guide. Alternatively, you can go up to your menu bar and down to Guides and show a hide guide here. Make sure you've got your selection tool and click and drag to select both shapes. And what we're going to do now is duplicate this shape. In this instance, the best way we're going to do this is press and hold Alt, click on the shape and drag, and what we want to do is line this up, and our smart guides are telling us that it's intersected with the other shape. When we let go, these are going to be perfectly lined up. Make sure they are, otherwise our brush is not going to look nice when we've finished. So there we go, 2 perfectly lined up shapes. That's great. Now what we want to do is, with our selection tool, click and drag to select both shapes and go back up to the corner of the shape here, press and hold Shift and then rotate 45 degrees. Holding Shift constrains the rotation, so it will move in increments like this, as you can see. So we know, and it's going to be exactly 45 degrees. There we are. Once you have rotated your shape by 45 degrees, I want you to press M to bring up the rectangle tool once again. And what we're going to do is we're going to create an invisible rectangle which will mark out a portion of the shape that Illustrator will use to create our braid brush. So using smart guides, we're going to hover over and we want to align our cursor to create a rectangle from this point here. So that's telling us we're in line, and click and drag, click, hold and drag, and then you can see here we want to align the edge of our rectangle with this point here, and it's telling us it's intersecting now. I actually want my rectangle to be this shape, but for some strange quirky reason it's no longer showing me any guides when I drag down here. I don't know why, they've just vanished for some reason. So instead what I'll do is I'll just drop down the corner of my rectangle at the intersection point there. I'll press and hold Command, go to the center of my rectangle, drag down, and there we go, that's the shape that we need, because this portion inside here will be the portion that Illustrator makes our brush out of. So we want this to be invisible, so make sure that your stroke is on top here. You can change whether fill or stroke is on the top by pressing X, you see, and switching backwards and forwards there, and then you can press / or question mark, and that will set the stroke to nothing. And that's what we want, because we want it to be invisible. Next, we're going to send this rectangle, make sure it's at the back of all these shapes, by pressing Command Shift left bracket, or you can make sure the shape is selected, right click, and then go down to Arrange and Send to Back. Once you've done that, and with the selection tool, click and drag to select all the shapes we've made, or press Command A, and that will be a surefire way to know we have everything selected. And then we will go up here to the control panel and into the brush menu, and then this little icon here, click to bring up the menu and click New Brush. And then you can go down and click on Pattern Brush and press OK. That will bring up the Pattern Brush Options panel, and we're going to name our brush Super Easy Braid. There we go, Super Easy Braid. We're not going to change any of this in here at the moment, so just hit return, and now we can test out the brush, see if it's going to work. I'm going to zoom out a little and press P to bring up the pen tool, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to draw any old curve, it doesn't matter, or whatever you want, you can draw it, and then select that and choose from the menu palette. You can see our braid brushes here now. Click, and there we have it, our super easy braid brush. I really hope you... Oh, one last thing, you can actually change the weight of the braid by going over to the stroke panel, or up here, or here, stroke. Illustrator gives you so many ways to do things, it's just a personal preference sometimes. I'm usually trying to find the quickest way to do things. There we go, we've reduced the size there. And that's it. I mean, I really hope that you found this tutorial useful and easy to follow. If you have any suggestions or questions, just leave me a comment and I'll try and get back to you. Yeah, see you soon for the next tutorial. Bye guys.